If you told me the most defining moment of my career would start with the clang of emergency sirens and end with me questioning everything my family ever taught me about honor, I'd have laughed right in your face. You know what I mean? But here I am, telling you how one pilot I spent months dismissing ended up changing not just the Air Force, but the whole way I measure character and justice in America. So, let me back up a sec. I was Colonel Rebecca Morrison, Edwards Air Force Base, California, youngest wing commander in history. Not that anyone ever let me forget it. My life was a schedule of briefings, inspections, and dinner parties with the kind of military brass that have their own rooms at the Pentagon. My father, grandfather, great-grandfather, yeah, all blue-blood Air Force. Our family compound in Colorado Springs? It was like a shrine to tradition. You walked the hall, you saw medals, generals' photos, flags in glass cases, and God help you if you ever suggested the best pilot for a job might not be the one with the right pedigree. Most days. The only thing that broke the monotony of endless meetings was dealing with Captain Marcus Jackson, a Detroit kid, smart as hell, always poking holes in my old school ways, suggesting we run training different, test new combat tactics. And every time, I'd smile that practice smile, thank him for his perspective, then shut him down, telling him to focus on mastering the procedures that had, protected America for generations. Truth is, I never saw Marcus as a threat, just a minor irritation, a puzzle to solve with discipline and standards. Or so I thought. At home, it was more of the same. Family dinners with my brother, mom and dad, friends like David Patterson, everyone talking about preserving excellence, keeping the Air Force the world's finest, by making sure only the right people advanced. If someone didn't fit the mold, didn't talk or act like us, well, they needed extra guidance. We called it mentorship. Looking back, it was more like gatekeeping. I never questioned it. Not really. But the real twist started with a code red, a siren splitting the desert calm, snapping everyone to battle stations. Thunderbird 7, our newest stealth prototype, carrying half the Pentagon, blew its hydraulics at 30,000 feet. Unflyable, 6 souls aboard, and who was in the cockpit? Captain Marcus Jackson, the guy I'd sidelined, humiliated, told again and again that his approach was too theoretical. Now, all eyes on him, with national security and billions on the line. When Marcus radioed in, cool as you like, walking us through his plan to land a dead stick, hydraulics outburned with nothing but engine thrust and luck, I could barely breathe. The odds were impossible. But Marcus, he worked the impossible. Watching from the tower, seeing that jet glide in on pure skill and guts, sparks flying, engines screaming, coming to rest 100 feet from disaster. I realized I just witnessed a miracle. Senators, generals, even the Pentagon brass, everybody calling it the finest airmanship they'd ever seen. Me? I couldn't stop staring at the man I'd spent months treating like he was never good enough, and wondering, honestly, who the hell I'd become. I went home that night, and for the first time, every medal, every lecture about standards felt hollow. I replayed every moment I'd shut Marcus down, every time I'd stolen his credit, every moment I'd kept him out of the rooms where decisions were made. That quiet voice I'd always ignored started screaming, what if I'd been wrong? What if standards was just an excuse for not seeing what was right in front of me? But old habits die hard, and it wasn't long before the Air Force closed ranks. Marcus was nominated for commendation, but quietly, his rivals started digging for dirt. Suddenly, security concerns and protocol violations popped up, accusations built on nothing but the fear that maybe, just maybe, the best pilot in the squadron didn't look or act like a legacy kid from Colorado Springs. Patterson and Williams, the same officers who'd always sided with me, filed reports accusing Marcus of leaking secrets, of overstepping his clearance. Fabricated evidence, coordinated testimonies, the kind of ugly, backroom maneuvering that makes your stomach turn. That's when I had to choose. I could keep my head down, let Marcus be chewed up and spat out like so many before him, or risk everything and stand by the truth. My family called it madness. My mentor called it career suicide. Hell, David Patterson, my old friend, showed up with a ring, ready to save me from my crisis. I sent him packing. For the first time, I saw the cost of protecting comfort over justice, and I wanted no part of it.so. I resigned, walked out, slammed the door on 4 generations of military tradition, and filed a request for a full Inspector General investigation. The Air Force panicked. They called me traitor, said I'd lost my mind. But I'd finally learned something Marcus had known his whole life. Real honor means standing with those who are right, not those who are powerful. The IG's office moved faster than I expected. The investigation proved everything: the fabricated charges, the coordinated campaign, the pattern of promoting mediocrity over excellence when it challenged the hierarchy. Marcus was reinstated, promoted, and offered command. The day of his ceremony, standing in the audience, I felt something I'd never felt in uniform, a kind of pride not in myself, but in what I'd learned, and what I'd finally become. Twist is, my whole life I thought being a leader meant upholding tradition, keeping the wrong people out for the sake of the mission. But standing in that hall, watching Marcus pin on those wings, I saw the real meaning of service: lifting others up, even if it means tearing down the old walls you built your identity on. Later, when the Washington Post published my story, Why I Left the Air Force to Fight Institutional Racism, the world exploded. Old friends vanished. Military networks cut me off. My own mother begged me to recant. But the letters started coming in: pilots who'd been sidelined, veterans denied justice, young officers who'd nearly given up believing things could change. It's funny, the things you give up for truth. My bank account shrank, my social calendar emptied, but I'd never felt lighter. Marcus and I started our own advocacy group, serving vets, fighting discrimination. It was messy, complicated, nothing came easy, but every case we won felt more real than any medal I'd ever pinned to my uniform. 3 years on, the president handed us the Medal of Freedom. We stood in the White House, hand in hand, a couple nobody would have imagined: me, the colonel who'd once tried to clip his wings, him, the pilot who'd taught me everything about humility and courage. And if you're wondering, yeah, I fell in love with him, too, because love grows in the cracks of broken walls, in the light that shines through when you finally admit you were wrong. Looking back, I don't regret losing my old life. I regret it took so long to see what was right in front of me, and how many good people I'd pushed aside to protect a legacy that was never really mine. In the end, what matters isn't whose name is on the wall, but who you lift up and what kind of world you leave behind. That's what Marcus taught me: the power of dignity, the price of truth, and the kind of love that makes you want to be worthy, not just respected. So let me ask you, how much of what we call standards is really just fear of change? How often do we protect comfort at the expense of justice? And who gets left behind when we let old rules decide who's worthy? Drop your thoughts below, because if we don't talk about it, nothing changes. If this story hit you, share it. Speak up. Justice doesn't happen in silence.